Captain's Log, Episode 28. This week's episode of the Beer Vengers podcast is sponsored by Astoria Beer and Cheese Ditmars, located at 35-11 Ditmars Boulevard in Astoria, Queens. Enjoy the eclectic array of craft beer, artisanal cheeses, and specialty grocery items at Astoria Beer and Cheese Ditmars, home bar to yours truly, Captain Porter Brown Stout. On this week's installment, Captain, Huck, and the Beer Wonder welcome guest beer venture to be and designer of the Beer Vengers logo, John Hoffman. This episode features 6 pours from 5 great New York breweries and 1 exceptional Connecticut brewery. This has everything: an origin story, multiple cellar trips, questionable analogies, and an extended dissertation on the merits of running and drinking, preferably in that order. Remember to like, star, and subscribe us whenever that feels appropriate. And send us your emails at thebeervengers@gmail.com if you have any questions, suggestions, or if you just like hearing us talk about you on the show. And now, without further ado, please enjoy episode 28, Hoff to the Races.
Well, we're the beer Vengers, beer Vengers, beer Vengers. We're the Beer Vengers.
Welcome to the Beercast, everyone, coming to you from an undisclosed location in Astoria, Queens. I am Captain Porter Brown Stout.
And coming to you from an undisclosed location on the Upper West Side of Manhattan town, this is the Pale Male Hophead Huck.
And coming to you from an undisclosed location in the County of Kings, it is I, the Beer Wonder!
And we are the Beer Vengers. Yeah.
Nice, that was good.
Yeah,
I
I
think so as well. Yeah, one of the best ever. We are the Beer Vengers, everyone. Welcome once again to the Beercast, all the Beer Vengers out there, because we're all Beer Vengers, whether you're listening or you're in this 4 virtual rooms with us. We got a great show coming. Before we get to any of that, I want to introduce our special guest this week. He's a graphic artist. He's a director, a founding member of the Ophelia Theater Group, and the head of the film production company Hoff, and the designer of the logo you see every time you download this podcast. Please welcome John Hoffman.
Woo!
Hey, John.
Hello. Nice
Hi,
to
John.
be here.
Very good to have you here. We've got a lot coming up. We're going to learn his starting tale, original.
Don't trigger it.
No, I won't. I don't want it. It's on a hair trigger. Starting, beginning. Anyway, you're going to hear all about
Genesis,
Hoff
his
and
genesis.
his genesis. Yes, very good. His protagonist genesis.
Oh,
I like that.
there you go. There you go.
And you're going to hear about our weeks in beer and things that have been going on in the world. But before we get to any of that, it really wouldn't be an episode until we get to the pours.
True.
Yeah, this pour time,
Mhm.
pouring time. Time for Hophead Huck to pour a beer into a glass.
Maybe not quite time.
Maybe not quite hot.
There is time for someone to pour a beer, but
Exactly.
I mean,
What the hell?
Honestly, Captain, I feel very proud that you were the one who noticed it this time, because it's been almost 6 months, and I feel like I'm getting through.
You've taught me well, Grasshopper.
So I'm so pleased. I
You
do
the
feel
honor.
like it would only be polite if our newest Beer Venger joiner started us off today.
That's
Well,
fair.
our beer venture to be. Of course, he should go first. Yeah, that's no question about that.
Only polite.
John, what do you have
So-
there?
Oh, today I brought a coffee cup double coffee stout.
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
nice. Who's it by?
Common Roots.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I picked it up at Astoria Beer and Cheese.
Oh yes, Astoria Beer and Cheese Ditmars at 35-11 Ditmars, our sponsor.
Yeah, I like it.
Funny how that works. Well, let's
But
see
he
that
actually
beer.
paid for this beer, so
Yeah, go ahead and pour that one, because we want to definitely check this guy out.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's a good coffee stout.
crack.
I also have it in my, I don't know if you can see,
Mm.
my single cut
Oh,
special
yeah.
glass.
Oh,
Oh,
hey,
yes.
look at that. Beautiful tulip glass right there. Gorgeous.
Lovely.
There we go.
All right. Oh, see, that is exactly coffee and chocolate. It does look like you're basically pouring a cup of coffee right there.
Mm,
Oh,
fellow,
yeah.
smell it.
I can basically smell it through the audio waves. Almost no head on this beer. That is a beautiful, beautiful,
Very nice
beautiful beer
indeed.
there.
Yeah.
Excellent.
It's so dark you can see the logo.
Yeah,
You really can, yeah.
Look at that.
Exactly. See, look at that.
Just reflecting on us. Yeah.
Love it. Okay, so
Very,
who's going to
very
go next?
All right.
yeah. Huck, you were so excited.
Oh, okay. Well,
Yeah,
actually,
I gotta agree with Beer Wonder.
I like this coffee theme because I'm very excited today. Is the day to bring out my. We're going to the decaf stand cellar.
Ooh.
I've been aging this particular stout. Also, coffee stout, the Ashlon Coffee Stout from
Ooh.
Fox Farm, and we've been trying to get more Connecticut. Fox
Mhm.
Farm is my favorite brewery in Connecticut, no question. Not to discount the other ones. I haven't tried most of them, so hopefully we'll do that soon. But it's the Ashlon Stout, and it's been aging in my refrigerator for 7 months.
Wow.
Oh, did you hear that? It's
Oh,
it's still
that beer is
cracked.
ready. That beer is
Let's take a look.
prepared.
Let's take a look at this beauty.
Oh, wow. That one is pouring like motor oil, super dark head. Wow.
But yeah, a very subtle head just coming up on
Look
the.
at that.
It's like I think
Yep,
like the
still
head just
alive.
makes itself known once it's poured.
Yeah, just barely
Oh,
there.
and the coffee aroma is just screaming out of the glass. Fantastic. All right.
All right, what do you have there, Beer Wonder?
Well, it is a cellar day, it seems, because we're also visiting the Wonder Cellar here.
Oh,
in
wow.
Beer Wonder's undisclosed location. Because I have also been aging a beer, very much a captain's beer. This is from a little brewery here in New York City. You might know they're called 6 Point.
Mm-hmm.
Very good.
And this is their Righteous Ale, which is a barrel-aged rye ale. That is
Okay.
a rye ale that is also aged in bourbon and whiskey barrels. So it's
Very
good.
nice.
I've been aging it since the new year, so it's been about 4 months or so. Not quite as long as Huck there, but either way, I'm very excited about it. Also, clearly a can that's ready to go.
Yes,
And
very fresh crack there.
here we go.
Oh,
Oh,
that's
yeah,
nice.
you can see that dark amber color.
Yep, really ambery, not quite as dark as your beers. I can already smell the whiskey and the bourbon right now. Like it's just pouring over me. So
It's got a nice, healthy, light caramel head to it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's sort of reddish thing going on there.
yeah,
Righteous Ale. Oh, we'll have to talk more about that. Yeah.
yes, it's very angry. I'm sure it has lots of feelings.
Very good. All right. Well, my beer is a
Sponsored pour.
That's right. It's a sponsored pour from our sponsor, Astoria Beer and Cheese Ditmars at 35-11 Ditmars. I was in there last week, right before. Well, this little spoiler about what we're going to be talking about later. Before I met up with some of the other beer vendors over the weekend, and I stopped in Astoria Beer and Cheese, and Ryan gave me some really great ones. And I just, as soon as he handed me this one, I was like, "This is on the next show." This is from Westkill Brewery. They are in the Catskills. They've only been there for a few years. I'll talk about them in a little more in detail once we got this in my glass. But this is a brown ale. It is called the Sap House.
Ooh. So we know that indicates that we're gonna get some maple in this.
Mm-hmm.
Here we are.
Theoretically, it may not be.
Fine, we'll see.
I might be the sap for saying that.
Maybe. Oh, now. This one is.
It's a brown.
It's definitely a brown. It feels kind of cloudy to me, which is kind of interesting. I guess that's where that like mapley, that sugar is going to show up. Just as it's pouring.
That's a pretty one.
It's really beautiful head. Good head retention as well.
Nice healthy head there. Yeah, nice little caramel color to it.
And also great can art. Just A+ can art.
Nice. All right. Well, since we all have full glasses, yes. Oh yeah, let's do this all together now. Very good. And gentlemen, yes. Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers indeed. Yeah.
Kampai. That's very nice.
Well, I can say the aging on this one has the carbonation is a little dissipated.
Sure.
But it doesn't detract from the flavor, which is just, it's really like drinking a cold brew. I almost want to put it over ice, you know? Really good
So
coffee
intense
flavor.
coffee. Do you know if it's made with coffee grounds or is it just using a malt that's giving that coffee flavor?
No, it's made with coffee.
Okay.
Specifically, it even says it on the bottom of the can. It said, I saw this earlier today. I was looking at the date,
Hmm.
and it says Zambia Estate, and that's because it was there. I'm not talking to the mic. It was from a Zambia coffee.
Ooh.
The coffee bean is from Zambia, Kasama Estate,
Oh,
and
cool.
it says here it undergoes an anaerobic fermentation process, resulting in pronounced distinctive flavors. Red berry and cinnamon come to mind.
Ooh.
And they are collabing with the Ashlawn Farm Coffee Company, which is also in Connecticut, and they do this Ashlawn beer. I don't know if they do it yearly or biannually, but they do a different bean every time, I think.
Mm.
So yeah, that's a nice one. This is one of my favorite beers of last year, but I realized I shouldn't have aged it this long. But you never know. You never know.
Exactly. Well, that's the joy of aging is that, sometimes you can get a real winner out of it. Sometimes it really brings out a good new flavor and sometimes it lives its life.
Right. That's the thing with cans. You don't know in the canning process what's going to happen.
Exactly. Hey, what was the percentage on that beer? Do you
Yes,
remember?
I was going to say it's 7%.
Oh, okay. So that's actually an easier drinker than I would have expected for what it looked like. It feels like is it going down fairly easy?
Oh yeah. Like I said, I don't get any kind of booziness.
Mm.
I get more. Oh, there. I brought the head to life there just a little bit.
Oh yeah. Oh wow. So it's quick to
It's
quick
not
to come
beautiful
back.
It's
color.
not dead. It just it just dies off quickly. The head,
Mm.
but it's delicious. Yeah, I love Fox Farm. They make great IPAs and great lagers too, and great sour beers, farmhouse ales.
Mm.
Fantastic stuff.
Delicious. Good place to explore.
So how's that 6 point beer wonder?
I mean, it's bold. There's a lot. It's so I didn't mention, but this is just a light and gentle 10.5 percenter.
Oh wow!
So it is ready to go, and you can tell. And it has only gotten what I can imagine is smoother as it's aged because it is going down very, very easily. I definitely taste the booziness. I definitely
Okay.
taste the alcohol. And digging into this one, I mean, and the rye, the like nuttiness that you get from a rye adjunct is very present. So it's got a good nutty quality. And also you can tell that it's been barrel aged. And when I dug in on this one a little bit, this was an early experiment with barrel aging for or I guess one of their first, not the first, but one of their first with 6 point. And it was, they had done some tinkering specifically using Widow Jane and Woodford Reserve rye barrels. So they're mixing and matching and aging in those, and then they blend the whole thing together for a wide release. So they can sort of with the whole set of all of that happening. And this was only the second time that they'd done a network-wide barrel-aged release. So for kind of an old standby, I'm excited to see that they're continuing to get creative. But yeah, very like the rye malt is very present. It's very caramelly, and like you're drinking a 10.5 percenter. So I'm gonna have to go slow but steady on this one. Otherwise, it's going to turn into the barley wine episode all over again.
Very good.
I'm curious about our guest, Hoff. What is how's your beer?
Well, it's absolutely delicious. What I'm reading is it's actually made with cold brew coffee.
Nice.
It's very strong. It's 9%.
Okay.
Oh wow!
With I guess chocolate and caramel notes from the malt, I suppose.
So
very delicious.
It's made with cold brew. Does it taste like a cup of coffee? Like, do you get it that intensely? Okay. Like you could add milk to it and sugar and maybe drink it in the morning and maybe be drunk all day kind of thing?
Yeah, pretty much. I could just not use Bailey's and make myself an Irish coffee with this.
It's a much more direct route, it feels like.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think so.
Love it. Yeah, I like Common Roots. They're kind of a little bit underrated in the area.
Yeah. Can you remind us where they're from again? They're local, yeah?
It's New York.
Yeah, they're New York. I was trying to find more information on them. I really like coffee stouts. It's the only one I could find actually at ABC when I went there. But yeah, they're from New York. From I guess Saratoga.
Okay, so a little ways upstate.
Yeah, so they're still part of that New York scene, which is great. Always good to support our local New York City breweries. So,
Yeah,
and
but yeah,
Astoria Berry and Cheese is always good at making sure that they've got a good balance between the kids that we all know that are from close by and people from other places as well.
that's very true. Yeah, it looks like Hoff, you and I both have sort of an upstate thing going on here.
Hmm.
But well, in fact, the one I was talking about, mentioning this is you and I spent a couple of Septembers up near Hunter Mountain. This looks like this isn't terribly far from there, up in the Catskills. Um, it's I read about them for the first time today because I hadn't really heard about this brewery. It I guess they opened this like 2 or 3 years ago, but they're on the property of a 128 acre former dairy farm.
Oh, cool.
So they're like a real farm brewery, and they grow a lot of their stuff there, and they get it a lot locally. So they're on that level. Although they at some point they realized that they were just going to be like a three barrel thing going at one point, but then they decided to go for 10.
Hmm.
I said, if we're going to do this, let's do it, because probably if with all the supplies they're bringing in, probably better deal for doing that much. But yeah, so here's we're talking about them. You were absolutely right about the maple. This is brewed with maple bark,
Oh,
Oh,
interesting. Wow.
peeled and toasted at the brewery, and Catskills maple syrup.
Holy moly.
That's different. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's nice. Yeah, I think that bark is really. I'm not really getting much of the overall sweetness, but it's a nice beer. I think it's like something like a 5.8%er here. Let me see if I can find that.
That's interesting because I've been reading a lot about ancient beers or pre Klein Heitzgebot beers, and there's a lot of different ingredients people would use, including tree bark.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I like to see that breweries are trying stuff like that again.
Now that we're not bound by all of these rules in order to make our beer, we can continue to be a little more creative.
That's right. That's right.
But yeah, definitely, it's got. I mean, it's medium. I would say it's like another medium plus bodied,
Sure.
very drinkable. Which is we've talked about this a lot on the show about how that's such a funny word because
Drinkable.
all beers are drinkable,
Drinkability.
aren't they? But
Depends
I mean,
on your tone.
what's that?
Depends on your tone.
Oh, he's like, it's
How's that
drinkable.
beer? It's drinkable.
As opposed to this is really drinkable.
This is drinkable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is probably why more specific language is better. I mean, the sessionable is a lot, but that almost more specifically refers to session ales. But anyway, it is
Right.
it is it's not like a lager. It's definitely it's got a strong personality to it. But it's a nice medium body, 5.8% as I mentioned.
Oh wow.
Good. I'm glad to see we're getting more brown ales in the story. That's 2 weeks in a row now with a brown.
It certainly is. Yeah. In fact, that's one of the reasons when you had mentioned that last week that we hadn't gotten enough browns. I wasn't honoring as much of my name as I should.
We're covering browns. We're getting more Connecticut going.
This is
fantastic.
It's a good time to be a beer avenger, as always.
I really love Fox Farm. I go down to Cape Cod a lot from the city, and Fox Farm, it's off the beaten path. So it's like it almost like basically it adds an hour to my trip if I go there and then get back on the highway. And it's like, oh, but I want to go every time, but it's already a 5-hour drive. So we don't often do it, but a couple times we can. And then it's hard to find them outside of the brewery.
Yeah.
They have sent some kegs down to New York City in the past, but this past year I haven't seen any cans in New York, and so yeah, it's good to get them when I can. One of my faves.
Yeah, nice to highlight them. Well, I feel like now is a great time to get to know our newest adventurer here in Beer Avenger Land.
So are you saying that that maybe it's time for another
Origin story.
We haven't had an origin story in a couple weeks.
It's been just a moment,
Yeah.
And honestly, that
It's
just makes me
time.
so happy because we are Legion, and it is always great to meet another of our Beer Avenger wanderers.
Yes,
Yes,
it absolutely is.
indeed.
Now, as we have mentioned already that Hoff designed this wonderful logo for us. that several of us are now wearing on T-shirts.
Yeah, I noticed all of us we're so coordinated today.
And if you look on our Instagram feed, you might see some of those. Yeah, it turned out really beautifully because he created this great, high quality, very dense thing. So even it looks good on your phone. It looks good on our chests. So thank you for that. That was actually the last step for us actually being able to release this thing out into the world. We needed a good logo, and Hoff stepped up there. And before we get really deep into your own personal story, I'd like to talk the story about how we initially met, because even though we really got to know each other better doing theater together, first place we met was at a bar.
Oh, nice.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, there was a karaoke bar that over on Ditmars Boulevard that used to hang out in that had Monday night karaoke's. And a lot of the Ophelia Theater Group crowd hung out there. And that's where Hoff and I first met. So sort of speaking to the whole, how everything it always goes back to drinking, doesn't it?
Is that Stiniamas?
Yes.
Yeah.
Originally Stiniamas, eventually known as the Boulevard. And now it's called the Ditty.
They still do karaoke?
I don't think so. Or do they?
No.
Well,
No,
probably
they do
not right
not.
now for sure.
Oh,
Man,
yes. No
we
one's
had
doing karaoke right now.
We had some crazy times there.
We
Mhm.
certainly did.
Oh man.
Um,
I'll get into that later, but I want to hear what the Hoff has to say.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we were all hanging out there doing karaoke and got to know each other, and eventually got involved in the theater company, the Ophelia Theater Group. But that's more of our personal origin story. I want to hear more about Hoff's individual origin story. Do you remember your first experiences, your earliest experience with beer?
I can't say I'm too proud about my earliest experiences with beer.
That's a running theme.
Yeah,
It definitely is. Yes.
And I think that definitely changed once I moved to New York. But my first beers were basically just Heinekens and Coronas.
Okay.
Believe it or
Just
not,
what everyone was drinking.
that's a lot higher quality than the beer some of us started with.
Yes,
Yeah, for
correct.
sure.
I remember when I started drinking, Heineken was like special occasion.
Yeah.
It was like, wow, I actually got some Heineken rather than whatever's the shittiest thing I can afford.
But then when I moved to New York, I actually had my first Guinness ever, which was really cool.
Mm.
I had it at O'Hanlon's.
Now moved to New York from.
Oh, from California. Yeah,
Oh, wow.
I'm originally from Southern California.
Oh, okay.
Which is where actually most of the people in our theater company are from as well.
That's
We
right.
sort of moved
Yes.
out here.
Right, because you all like met in junior high or something, right?
Yeah. Actually, most of us met in high school. Some of us have known each other for a little longer than that too.
Now, perhaps I missed this. What year did you come to New York City?
December 2009.
2009. Okay, awesome.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I had I moved on to basically just drinking whatever I was. My drinking habits were basically whoever I was in company with. So like, my friends in the theater company, which were my closest friends, so we would actually meet weekly at Sparrow, and they always had special for Yingling. So I drank a lot of Yingling for a period of time, and then I eventually just sort of landed on liking stouts and porters. And I remember my first favorite one was probably, and I couldn't find it anywhere to pick up locally. Not that it's hard to find or anything, but it's Founder's Breakfast Stout.
Mm.
Yeah, that was an early one of mine too.
And yeah, which I guess leads me to today. Just kind of leaning a little bit more towards stouts, and today the Common Roots Coffee Cup, which is really delicious.
Yeah, I've had that one before. It's been a little while, so you're making me think I should have picked up some of that when I was there last weekend. So here's something I find curious about the whole beer journey. Do you still drink Guinness?
Oh,
Occasionally, if I'm at an Irish bar.
How does it taste to you compared to the first time you had it?
I don't know. that's
Yeah.
a tough question. It's definitely not as magical. I remember when I first had Guinness, it was kind of like it was the first time that I realized beer could not just taste like 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 Heineken, like not without being rude,
Yeah, it's hard to
you
believe
know.
that Guinness and Heineken are the same beverage.
Yeah, they're different.
Mm-hmm.
And we've talked a lot about how that the spectrum of what beers are have gotten to the point where some things are like, is this a beer?
I'll still drink a Heineken. I like a
Oh, yeah,
Heineken
me too.
periodically.
Yeah.
On draft. I like it on draft.
Yes. Not out of the green bottle. Ugh. It's going to be skunked if you get that one.
Yeah. But I like a Guinness too. They're really great when you go to Ireland.
Mhm.
Yes,
We've talked about that
better in
before.
Ireland than here.
Yeah.
I've heard that.
Well, although, I mean, while it is different in Ireland, I still understand. We do have finally, we do have a Guinness factory here or brewery, I should say, here in the United States. There's one just
Yeah.
outside of Baltimore, which is exciting.
I did not know that.
Yep. Where they make more than just the extra stout. They make all sorts of interesting things. I was there just before the world lockdown. I think I might have mentioned this, and we had all sorts of cool things, including some of the things that had honey in them and an IPA of all things. So,
Yeah, they're branching out the Guinness company, yeah. And they're big. I mean, they're big.
Yeah, I guess Hoff, what I was talking about was like, for me, Guinness I've always enjoyed, but I found that the more I've tasted other things, I feel like my palate has shifted a little bit.
hmm.
That like just by teaching my palate to appreciate different things, it's gotten a little more sophisticated. So a Guinness, while still tasting good, tastes a lot simpler to me than the first time I tried it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I as much as Guinness holds a special place for me, I definitely shift a little bit more towards any other stout or darker beers, especially if they have really interesting flavors that I want to try. I'm always looking for new things.
Absolutely. I know that that glass you have from Single Cut, that's the heavy boots of lead there, right?
Oh,
Mhm.
that's a
Yes,
good
it
beer.
is.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, there you
Gifted,
go.
It's a pretty
Yeah.
magical one, yeah.
Yeah, that was from the thing they did with a package with their the one I had on New Year's Eve,
Yeah.
the aged heavy boots of lead.
That's a crazy beer because it doesn't taste as strong as it is.
That's true.
It's just like, oh, it's just flavorful. It's like 10%.
Blessing and a curse on that one right there. So there's a lot of flavorings that go into sort of our darker beers, right? I've got a kind of bourbon whiskey situation going on. I know there's a lot of coffee. Is there a way that you tend to gravitate, Hoff, sort of in terms of additional flavorings that are going to be in your darker beers? Do you go for the coffee, the chocolate, the nuttiness?
Usually more chocolate, more coffee.
Mm-hmm.
If it has chocolate in it, especially if it's leaning towards like a bitter chocolate, I really like dark chocolate. So anything that kind of is in that sort of area usually just rings my bell.
Speaking the captain's language very much right there. Which
Very much so, yeah. Now I was just thinking about how talking of Single Cut, this is if we want to like give people a little bit of a peek behind the curtain as to how the logo was created.
Yeah, I wanted to hear about the logo.
Because the logo is actually, the base of it is a Single Cut growler.
Hey, look at that.
Did you use the single cut growler in the logo? Is that right?
I sure did.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
Look at that.
It's a photograph I took actually on the very table I'm actually doing this podcast on.
Oh, how cool.
Yeah. And I just sort of did a little bit of photo manipulation and then added some text. Put a little light behind the bottle.
Yeah, it's a great photo.
Now,
Now the captain showed us a couple of different options, and we landed on the one. I like the way that the podcast is in parentheses,
like almost like it's an afterthought.
Just in case you needed to know what we are.
It's a podcast.
Now, these shirts have been worn out in public, and one thing that we do get a lot of comments on, besides it being eye-catching and people loving the design, is the lettering, the like Beer Avengers lettering. People are always curious about that. So can you tell us a little bit more about what that is and sort of what you were thinking about when you kind of did this idea of block letters for us?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Well, Beer Avengers, I automatically go to something very comic booky, something very postery that kind of like splashes out at you. And I did a lot of searching through a lot of block lettering, through typefaces, and I forget the name of the one that we ended up using on it. But once we'd sort of once the captain and I had sort of like hammered down sort of like the ballpark of what it should look like, I just kind of did some basic gradients to make it pop out a little bit more and make it look a little bit more like it came out of a comic book.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, we definitely got a lot of compliments the other day when we went out in public wearing your logo.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
People
That's
at
so cool.
other tables in the restaurant were like, who are those people?
How do we hang out with them, as they
Hey.
should be asking?
Exactly.
Somebody
so
had
cool.
now. Did you have it based on any? Was there anything in your mind about any kind of breakfast food restaurants when you made the logo?
Not exactly. Well,
Because we did meet one bartender last week who said, "Is it supposed to look like the Waffle House?"
Waffle House.
Well, you're from California and living up here. Waffle House is
Oh,
more
do
of
they
a
not have those
southern
there?
place. I don't think so.
I don't
No,
think
no,
Waffle
no.
House is in
No.
California. I've
No,
only ever
no.
been there in like the
Well, they're definitely
Carolinas, Alabama.
Midwest.
Yes, and Upper
Oh.
Midwest, Lower Midwest.
I associate them with the South, but
You know, I've never seen a Waffle House before.
See,
Well, they definitely exist. You go, yeah.
I feel like it's a very slant connection. I mean, I have eaten at a few Waffle Houses in my day, and it's not exact the same, but I get the like letters inside squares kind of thing.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. I mean, these are a little more like the waffle. I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah.
you see it.
They're a little bit more like Scrabble letters, but they're yellow instead
Right.
of brown.
My wife and I, we were in Phoenix a few years ago, and the place we were staying was right next to a Waffle House. And I hadn't gone to Waffle House in years. When I did a tour in Georgia, we went all the time, and I really liked it. I liked the hash browns and stuff. It's a cool, fun breakfast. So I'm like, cider girl, we got to go. And so we went, and it was the most disgusting place. It was awful. There was like a film on the floor.
Oh god.
Like this greasy film all on the floor. And we sat in a booth where you could see behind the counter. And that was just like, oh, and then the eggs were runny, and it was then the hash browns were, you could see the grease dripping onto it was awful.
I think at the same time,
I don't mind dissing Waffle House. I really don't.
No, yeah. We feel about them the same. Well, we might like Staten Island a little better. I'm not sure. We'll get
Staten
to that
Island.
as well.
Oh right,
Waffle Houses on Staten Island.
Come, guys. Let's not upset them. We forgot about them as a borough last week.
Yes.
I thought I told you guys, don't mess with the island, huh?
But no, I remember when I was on a tour the same time you were on that tour, and it seemed like every hotel we stayed at was right off the interstate next to an Amico, a Burger King, and a Waffle House.
Yeah. Yep.
And the other thing that Waffle House always reminds me of is there's a great Bill Hicks routine. The unfortunately the late comic from Texas,
right?
Where he would talk about an encounter he had with a Waffle House waitress who wondered why he was reading while he was having his waffles. Anyone who's listening to this, I'm not gonna repeat the whole routine, but it's worth looking for it. And the big catchphrase is what she asked him is, "What are you reading for?"
What are you reading for?
Not what are you reading. What are you reading for?
That ain't the Bible.
Looks like we got ourselves a reader here. But yeah, that's the Waffle House. Now we're talking about when we were all hanging out last weekend. This was all of the beer vendors that were hanging out last weekend are either full or partially vaccinated.
Yep.
And it was predominantly outside. And that was where we debuted these T-shirts. Went to John Brown's barbecue. Had a little birthday lunch for the Belgian babe.
Mm-hmm.
She's got a T-shirt as well because it's her birthday, so of course. And then we hung out there for a while, and then we went to a few other breweries, and fortunately for these breweries, most of them were doing so well, we had to leave.
Yeah, it's true.
I did get a couple of nice barrel aged bottles from Big Alice, even though we couldn't stay there and have a beer there. So really glad to take some home, and then we went over, hung out at at Long Island City Beer Project for a little while.
Yeah.
So,
And it was impressive. It was great to see that as Gotham is starting to reopen, that people are taking advantage of the ability to go and actually have a beer at these locations.
yeah,
I
and
was
I will also say,
surprised at how busy they were. Yeah.
and to piggyback on that a little bit, John Brown, their stuff is, I mean, their new location, I would say, is the former location of Mothership Meat, which they also owned, and they've rebranded Mothership Meat as the new John Brown, and they've got this big giant outdoor backyard where it's very easy to be able to keep your distance from each other.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that's great.
Could not recommend that place more.
Yeah.
Indeed. Well, I'm ready to crack another brew. Eh?
What?
Second pour.
Second pour.
Wow.
Very exciting.
I'm gonna come back to New York. You know me. I'm crispy chips, and I like to have my lagers.
Yes, you do.
I've got a lovely lager from my favorite New York brewery, Grimm Brewing. This is called. I'm trying to get it in the right.
Yeah,
line.
there we go. Grim.
Invisible Touch.
Beautiful. Oh. And
I
also,
seem to have an invisible touch. Yeah. Anyway, it's a Helles lager, and I have
nice.
not had this before. Of all the Grim lagers I've had, I have not had Invisible Touch. And we were talking about the Grim lagers. They all have these Greek names, right?
Yep.
Yes.
Eutopos and Kronos. This one's Invisible Touch. I don't know why. Okay.
that feels mythological to a certain degree.
And look, it's set up for my left-handed pour.
Mm-hmm.
That's awfully nice of them. See, they thought of me.
They did. They were so thoughtful and considerate. And also, it's that straw color that we have not yet had today. This is the lightest beer of the day. Good head retention.
Well, as you know, Helles means pale lager.
Mm-hmm.
So there we go. Yeah, it's a nice looking beer.
It is
Look
as
forward to
pale
trying
as the pale male himself.
Trying to get the pale male is actually more like a red ale.
Oh, that's
We have my
nice.
sister on. She's Irish red. I'm
Exactly.
same coloring. Well, cheers. Thanks.
Cheers.
Well, I guess if you're going to do second pour, I feel like I would like to as well, but I don't think I'm going to take a trip to the usual place because we don't want. Oh, yeah,
It's good.
it is good.
Very nice. Go on, Cap.
So I'm not going to take a trip to the cellar because we already 2 cellars. I think is enough for one show. Also, there's this beer that I've had from Astoria Beer and Cheese the last couple of weeks that it's not a. Well, I'm not going to put it on the sound. It's not a sponsored pour, but it is from there. And there's this beer that I got a couple cans of one weekend, and then the next week I went back and got a 4-pack. This is from Alewife.
Oh yeah.
We know
and
them.
It's called "They Mostly Come at Night." Mostly.
Ooh, mostly.
Sounds dark.
It's an
Yes.
imperial stout, and as soon as I pour it, I will tell you some of the wonderful things that it's made of and the wonderful flavors. Of course, it goes without saying it's another local one because that is Alewife.
Yes, indeed.
Oh
Gosh, so dark.
Yeah.
Oh, but such a beautiful head on that.
And
Wow.
a lot of head growth, especially for something an imperial stout. That does feel like there's a lot
that's
there.
alive.
Mm-hmm. That's ready to
That was
go.
great.
Gorgeous.
You might need to pass some over to Hoff when you're done. It seems like this might
Yes.
be a Hoff.
I think I
beer
have
for
another
sure.
one in my refrigerator. He's actually less than a block away from my
I was
apartment.
going to say, you guys are neighbors. Yeah?
Yeah, you might as well find a time to meet up there.
In fact, we're so close. We had to make sure we were all properly soundproof so we didn't bleed into each other's mics. But yeah, this is I've talked a little bit about how I love the pastry stouts, but I'm sometimes I just am more and jonesing for something a little more savory. This has got cinnamon and pretzels
Ooh,
and let's
I
make
love
sure I have the right kind of pepper here and red pepper.
red
Oh,
pepper.
hello.
Interesting.
Wait,
Okay.
red pepper.
Red pepper.
Like bell pepper, or are you thinking like a red cracked spicy
I'm thinking
pepper?
like the crushed red pepper.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
Yeah,
Oh, crushed red
I'm-
pepper flakes. Oh, I got it.
Yeah, it
Damn.
doesn't say specifically. It does say, however, specifically that the pretzels are from Sigmund's.
Okay,
Oh,
good.
okay.
Great pretzel
We
company.
talked a lot last week about all the. It's funny when we had our assignment last week to talk about sustainability and green stuff.
Mhm.
I think part of the reason I had a hard time initially finding much from them is that it is so commonplace that people don't even really have to toot their horn that much about it.
Mm.
Among the craft breweries, everyone is just helping out their neighbors and doing their best to sort of help each other with that and keep that circle going. Which reminds me, I also want to thank someone from last week. I know I mentioned that I got turned on to mentioning Big Alice as far as their sustainability programs as a farm brewery from the Facebook page NYC Craft Beer Lovers or
Mhm.
something like that. And that was a gentleman by the name of Michael Weinberg
Hmm.
of the New York
Oh,
City Craft Beer Club. I did that, and I was looking up Michael because I was curious, and it makes me even more think that I need to give a shout out to our good friends in Staten Island because we
Ah,
have those. Much what I said about the bad things in Staten Island, there are many good people, and Michael Weinberg is one of them for helping out with probably was already, but especially for helping us out with the show last week.
he is our friend until he listens to last week's episode.
Well, and then maybe he'll say, "Yeah, I'm surrounded by assholes." And that could just as easily happen.
I
I don't know
guess
if you know Hoff. We kind of dissed the island a little bit last week, so
I had it
I'm
coming.
doing everything I can to keep some version of civil relations here on the podcast.
we need some drama. We need
Yeah.
a little drama on the
Love
show.
Boy.
Killsboro. I got to. Killsboro is great. But yeah, I probably can't show my face over there. Unfortunately,
you've-
that's why we keep secret identities. Not wearing my T-shirt over there.
You've
Fair.
had Killsboro's on the show,
That's right. It was
Yeah.
on one of the very
as
first
has
shows.
the Beer Wonder, I believe.
We have drunk Staten Island beers here, and we will again in the future.
Yeah.
In contrition for us, I don't know. We'll find out.
Yeah, no contrition. It's like it's there. There's no one is black and white. It goes back to the whole Barack Obama's speech when he was he just become senator or was he running for senator? You know, the one where he said, we got friends in the red states and we got, he was trying to be unified. And that's
Yes.
really how it is. Just because there's so many awful people in Staten Island, our hearts should go out to all of the good people there as well, because it's even more tough for them. We're lucky we're not surrounded by those people, and you have our support. Good
That is
people
true.
of Staten Island.
I don't know if you guys can see this. Nice has a little bit of a haze to it.
Yeah, I noticed that as you were holding it
Got
up.
like a
Hellas.
citrusy look to it.
I tell you, this Grim Brewing makes the. I know you don't like to use the word best, but for me, the best lagers in New York. I love these guys. They just make such. I mean, they make great IPAs too, and stouts and sours. But I love their lagers, and this is living up to my expectations. So good. And I know it's strange, maybe not strange, but I just find these refreshing lagers just make me happy. They make me happy. Like this is like, oh hell yeah! It's that quaffability is part of it,
Mm-hmm.
where it's refreshing and it's easy to drink, drinkability.
Yes,
But-
drinkability. There it is again.
Damn, I love this. This is great. I'm real happy about it.
Yeah, no, best is it is a subjective thing.
Mhm.
That's the only reason I prefer the word favorite to best. But I know what you're saying.
They are certainly my favorite
Yeah.
New York brewery right now. That could obviously shift at
Well,
any
that-
moment.
That black lager that you gave me from them was fantastic.
Yeah, they're great. They're great. They should send us some beers. I talk about them so much.
Well, yeah, a lot of people should.
No
Right?
kidding.
Yeah, I mean that's something we've talked about before. Is like we give a lot. That's why I specifically mention as often as I can that A Story of Beer and Cheese is our official sponsor that we actually like very, very much. And they're the only ones who are and we were talking about them before they were giving us free beer. But we've never been shy at all about mentioning by name all the businesses that we love.
I'm pretty happy about. So I know that we haven't. I do have a few hookups.
Okay.
Oh dear. All right.
From last week, and they're not so much mistakes; it's more clarifications. And we didn't say anything wrong. I don't think it's just more like we left questions in the air.
Sure.
I don't want to take up all our time. If somebody else has something else they want to get to.
Well, the hookups are always
we got
important.
nothing but time, man.
Well, one thing that I know you told me that there was a company you were referencing last week, Rise Products, Beer Wonder.
Yes, I want to make sure that we are clear on these guys because I want they are. I apparently last week I called them Rise Project,
Right.
and I do want to make sure that we're calling them Rise Product because that's the work that they're doing. So if
Although
you
if
are
people find a link to Rise Project, I think that's
Well, there's
a
some
human rights thing. So
yeah, they're doing some really great things, but they don't want really people bothering them about spent grain flour.
exactly,
Let them do the good work and go to Rice products for the spent grain flour.
exactly to get your brownie mix because
Yeah.
it's pretty exceptional.
last week we were talking a little bit about the caffeine. It's
Mm.
interesting. We're having coffee beers this week. Hoff has got one there. Are you feeling the caffeine buzz from that beer?
A little bit, a little bit. You know,
Okay.
one of my favorite things to do, and this is probably kind of silly, before I drink a beer that I really like, is actually I go for a very long run. I used to do it a lot more often, and actually I did do it today, which is why I was almost late. I ran for just a quick 3 miles, and I noticed that right after I run, beer, food, even water tastes so much better. This thing is delicious. It's
Oh, okay.
Well, and
very good.
there is science to back that up because beer does offer you electrolytes that helps to rehydrate you. Now, a 9% beer is maybe not the best choice, um, but many athletes and people in Germany will, after they do long runs, will drink a beer to help bring themselves back.
Yeah,
So,
and that's
Wow.
give yourself a reward too. Yeah.
well, there's that as well.
So
One should always be rewarded.
caffeine in beer is not very well regulated. It's not
Mm.
something that breweries keep track of.
Mhm.
Most of them don't. I was reading an article about it. One that did was Harpoon's Dunkin's Coffee Porter,
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
and they say that for a 12-ounce beer, there's about 2.7 milligrams of caffeine,
Ah,
Okay.
tracks.
which is not a lot. And generally, it just varies depending on how you do the coffee. Like the ones I have today, and possibly Hoff's beer, where it's brewed with cold brew is added to it.
Mm.
That's where the caffeine factor might add up. But basically, if you get a 6 pack of coffee beer, that's going to be equal to a cup of coffee as far
Oh,
as
interesting.
caffeine. And if you drink a whole sixer, you'll probably be lying down anyway,
Yeah, you
and the
might want the.
alcohol would win out. So
You're not exactly drinking Four Loco there.
yeah, and I think that's
But you could be. But you could be, Captain. You could be.
that's
Is
it
it
on
legal
that.
somewhere?
No.
Okay.
Now we talked about state fairs last week,
We did.
and I made the statement that Minnesota is kind of the standard for state fairs. And it's essentially correct. There are other. That's again we're going to the best thing. USA Today did a poll of the best state fairs, and Minnesota was declared was the winner of that
Well,
poll.
and USA Today is the authoritative source on state
Right.
fairs. Let's be clear.
But almost every list I looked at about 10 or 12 different lists, and not everyone said Minnesota was number one, but most of them said Minnesota was number one.
Very good.
New York is the oldest state fair,
Oh,
dating back to 1843, whereas Minnesota's 1859, so not a big difference. And the biggest is Texas.
well, that does make sense.
Texas State
'Cause-
Fair, but Minnesota is only slightly smaller.
yeah.
So again, there you go. That's
And
the state fair thing.
also, the Minnesota State Fairgrounds is one of the newest federally run vaccine sites in the country. So,
Okay.
doing its part as well. Glad to see that.
Very nice. Very nice.
Now, I
So
mentioned-
again, it's subjective.
when we were having that discussion last week, I talked about that there was a nice David Foster Wallace piece about state fairs, and since I didn't realize we were talking about this, I didn't go back to look that up. So, but you can find that if you want to. I don't know what state fair he went to, but there's a wonderful little piece by
David Foster Wallace.
about visiting a state fair.
We'll talk about that next week, I assume.
Yes, I'll put that on my list.
We talked about the hop percentage, and I remember you
Mhm.
said that New York is growing, and I believe you said it was about 400 acres.
That's what I read as of 2019.
And that's the numbers I have. In 2019, 69% of hops in the U.S. were grown in Washington State,
Mhm.
Okay.
and that's about 41,000 plus acres.
It's a lot of hops.
And then another 12% is grown in Oregon, 7,506 acres, 14% in Idaho, that's 8,570 acres, and the rest of the country, 4%,
Wow.
Okay.
2,400 acres. That's 2019 numbers. So there you go. That can
Okay.
change over time,
Yep.
but at Pacific Northwest, and it does have to do with climate, much like
Sure.
coffee can only be grown in certain areas. And that's why Germany is like kind of a perfect spot for hops.
Mm-hmm.
And the Pacific Northwest is also that kind of perfect spot.
And by
We
even
talked,
quadrupling in New York, it's only a drop in the bucket.
you're right, right. But that's still a lot. And I think a lot of those farm breweries, considering that most beer is this mass marketed beer.
Mm-hmm.
So craft brewers, if they start to use, I just realized it's 7:00. I hear people singing outside. We still do that here.
That's a wonderful tradition.
We talked about the distance between City Field and the Queen Zoo, 1.2 miles.
Yeah. So not really someplace you can go hang out at while you're waiting for your vaccination.
And I think that's a minimum. That's like the edge of the City Field to the edge of Queen Zoo. So depending, you walk around the stadium, that's a long distance in itself,
Right.
as well as the zoo being large. The zoo itself is actually the second largest in the city, next to the Bronx,
Correct. That makes sense.
as far as area goes. So it could be a wild thing. And then there's the Sean Hill comments. I could get into that if you want, but
Sean Hill?
I'm sorry. Sean Hill is the guy who runs Hill Farmstead.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The head brewer, master brewer.
Yeah.
And he made a comment. He did an interview with the Vermont Magazine where he made some comments that ruffled some feathers, specifically Yepes feathers over at Evil Twin.
Yep.
But he may have been talking about Burlington Beer Company, which is also a place that adds a lot of stuff. Some of the quotes he said, let me see. On one side, perhaps the negative side, some brewers have gone beyond the beverage formerly known as beer
Oof.
to adding oddities such as hamburgers and French fries, Oreos, cereal brands, and just about any other food product into their mash tun or fermenter. And he used the term beer that tastes like beer. He said, that's what we do at Hill Farmstead. And he also said, many of us do love beer that is still beer, beer-flavored beer. I see my own pursuit and learning as that of blending new world with old world traditions. I have wanted to elevate beer beyond silly and pun-focused naming conventions for 2 decades. And then he also said, for some reason, an Oreo, Mocha, Poblano, Captain Crunch Pilsner conditioned on sushi rice and nori doesn't seem like the vehicle to get us there. So those are pretty strong comments.
Mm-hmm.
And sure, that's fine for Hill Farmstead. They make great beer.
They do.
But
Yes.
let other brewers do what they're do these experiments just because you're not doing them. So he's got a little bit of an attitude, but he also said, but maybe I'm too serious.
I would say, yeah. I would absolutely agree with, because my takeaway from that quote is I will drink that man's beer, but I don't really want to have a beer with him.
Right. I mean, they do make great beer.
Yeah, and I will drink those beers.
Evil Twin makes great beer. Burlington Beer Company makes great beer. A lot of these ones that do crazy flavors. This is how you discover new things. You have to take risks.
I talked last week about how I got a big crate of stuff from Tavor, and we have anyone who's listening to this has probably seen the pictures on the website. I haven't really delved into that crate too much, just because it's so intimidating. Like I don't know where to start. But I did have one from that crate since I last talked to you here, and it was beer with Oreos. It was I don't remember the exact name of it, but it was something from Montana. I should have, but yeah, I've had some very good beers with Oreos in them.
And Hoff's got a beer with cold brew coffee in it this week, so let's not knock not knock the goods.
Yeah,
absolutely.
As we said, it's the beer can be a big tent, and then within that tent we can have beer that tastes like beer. I mean, because I will. I'm fine with. Well, it's what you were talking recently about having seltzer that tastes like seltzer. That they don't. When you got
Mhm.
when you got the evil twin, the pastry seltzer that you thought didn't really taste much like seltzer, like so at some point category. Well, and the even more, which I think the latest version of it is called the
Hydra.
even more. Yeah, but I think they
Yes.
actually they came up with a new variant of it last week called
That's
even
right.
more Hydra.
Even
Ugh,
more, even more.
variant.
And I will say that didn't taste remotely anything that I've thought of beer ever tasting like, but
Yeah, of
it was
course.
delicious.
Yeah, but it's beer.
So these
That's what
categories
matters.
are arbitrary sometimes.
Beer. The definition of a beer is a fermented grain beverage.
It's true.
Yeah, Hoff, this
Sure.
beer that we're talking about is it's just like it just tastes like fruit juice. It is alcoholic, but it's like it has like it's technically a sour, but it's just like it's so fruity and almost pulpy.
Yeah, pulpy. That's a good word for sure.
Wow.
Yeah, it's basically like fruit juice.
But still delicious.
Yeah, and nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like with beer, like where do you draw the line with experimentation? Like beer was just, I don't know. I think about the very basic history of beer that I know, which is essentially that it was just made to keep Egyptian slaves in line, and it was basically just bread, just like old bread, essentially.
Yeah, we talked
And
about that a little bit last week. Yeah.
oh yeah,
Yeah, no, it's true.
I mean, it's like if they want to keep beer as beer is, why wouldn't they think that that's the actual definition of it? I feel like we've already done so much with beer and modifications of it that I don't know. I don't know where you draw the line between what goes and what doesn't go and what constitutes actually calling something a beer. I feel like this is a beer.
Yeah.
It tastes like a beer to me.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Absolutely.
I think the definition of what is beer is expanding in the same way that gender is.
There you go. That's a good comparison. Is it?
I think it's a little bit. I think there are many more definitions, and I think the intolerance that we're speaking of. I'm not saying that the Hill Farmstead guy is. I'm not putting him in some sort of transphobic thing. I'm just saying that the attitude of like this is what I think this is, and I will not listen to any differences
Mhm.
reminds me of some transphobic people I've heard.
Yeah. He's adjunct phobic.
Yes.
Phobic. This is how we get letters, y'all. This is how we get letters, guys.
We're waiting. Send us letters, folks.
Yeah, yeah. We'll both get people from think. So yeah. So if this can possibly make this clearer and not dig a deeper hole for myself, I will say I do not think that the Hill Farmstead guy is transphobic,
No.
and I do not, and I also certainly don't mean to trivialize any sort of trans or gender phobic things by comparing it to beer.
I think you're fine.
I think you're fine. I think you're
we're
fine. Yes. I don't think we're going to get that.
We
many
here
letters.
at the Beer Vengers are not transphobic. We embrace all
Yeah.
genders and all humans.
And all beers.
And all
And all
beers.
beers and animals too. We
And
like
we
animals.
defend those beers as we should. We
Yeah,
are the defenders of beers.
I think it all depends just on it really comes down to being open-minded.
Yeah. And the glory of beer is that there's always something new to try and taste. And I think
Yeah.
that's what makes it a fun thing to keep adventuring on.
Now we have the Hoff here.
We do.
Which is a great name right off the
Mhm.
bat, the Hoff.
It's a great start, yeah.
I know we have the Hoff that we know about the Hoff. You know, I just watched a Love Boat episode with the Hoff where he was
Oh.
he was a disgraced football player and he was trying to get Julie to get with him. They went to high school together, no college together. You know, Beer Venger name is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yes, it's important.
That's true.
I don't know if we have anyone in our ranks that is really representing for coffee. And hearing Hoff's story, that was an important flavor for you. So I was curious how we might be able to work some coffeeness into this, unless you've got some ideas.
So,
Huck.
yeah, let's get the coffee thing, the stout thing possibly, and perhaps even the running.
Oh
These
yeah.
are all themes we could play on.
How about the Night Runner?
Ooh, the Night Runner. I like that. Do you run at night, Hoff?
My best runs are at night.
Well,
Yeah.
Because
Okay.
he's the Hoff,
That's true.
I,
Don't
di- I
hassle
didn't.
the
I didn't.
Hoff.
I didn't do a Baywatch reference, so
Night runner, night rider. Sure.
I'll take
it's
it.
got legs.
he'll take it. All right, I love it.
All right.
Although the Hoff is great too.
Yeah, the Hoff.
I mean, the Hoff is very elegant and simple, but I do like something that's a little bit more mysterious.
and spelled
Okay.
Night.
Is it the Night Runner or is it just Night Runner?
Well, this is the
That's
question
up to
we
you.
always have when we
Exactly.
name someone. We usually leave that to the person being named because some people have very strong opinions about that.
Yes,
What
I
would
am
you
the
rather
beer
be?
wonder.
Night
Yeah.
runner or the Night Runner?
I mean, I think it would just be Night Runner.
Yeah, I agree.
Ooh, that's good. That's
I like
good.
it. I like it.
There's always a question of the article with these namings.
It's
But,
important.
I mean, more often than not, they're superfluous. But the cowbell was very adamant that we make
Well,
the part of it, and
The cowbell is the cowbell,
as is the cowbell's right.
and Mother Pucker is Mother Pucker. No, the.
Yeah.
Yes.
And your beer wonder, even though you sometimes call yourself
The beer wonder. Well,
Yeah.
sometimes I just need to make sure that people know that there's not some other one out there. I am the beer wonder.
That all makes sense.
No mistake. No
I-
mistake.
Can't.
I
have that.
realized we were getting close to the end, and I have not mentioned that we are recording this on National Beer Day.
I know it's a very exciting day.
It is.
That's
We
right.
didn't even know that when we planned this recording tonight.
No.
Happy National Beer Day, everyone.
Yeah. What a good
Well, now
way
I
to
wish I had brought
celebrate.
a second pour.
What's that?
I said, now I wish I had brought a second
Yeah.
pour.
Joe.
It's all good. It's all good.
It's all right. There's always time for a second pour after the recording session, or a third, or a fourth.
There is one other thing I wanted to talk about.
Please.
Turned on the news yesterday, and there are a lot of despite everything, we've talked about the way that existing breweries have continued to rise to the various challenges
Mhm.
that we've dealt with over the last year, and capitalization in breweries is doing very well. And there is a brewery in Morristown, New Jersey, called the Glenbrook Brewery.
Ooh, lovely.
They've been working on getting open for the last several years. I think at one point they had a location, and the neighbors didn't want a brewery there, and had to go to another location, and they had to keep postponing it. But they just opened like about 3 weeks ago.
Hey, that's great.
Morristown, New Jersey's very first brewery. I guess they've got sort of a Revolutionary War theme going to what they're doing, and they had some Revolutionary War reenactors show up as part of their big opening ceremonies. And they are complying with the state rules of New Jersey of keeping a limited capacity inside there, social distancing. And part of that was that they are requiring people to have a 90-minute limit to being in there because because there are big lines of people who are very excited. This is Morristown's first brewery, and some people, of course, as they will, are testing them on that.
Mhm.
And the other day, a guy wrote on his check that this is like just the biggest asshole move that exists. I think is not only not tipping someone, but writing a note on the receipt justifying why they're not tipping someone.
Yeah, that's
And
not
this
cool.
person they spent $86 there, but couldn't find room for a tip because they were so pissed off about leaving after 90 minutes. And they said, "Sorry, the server gets screwed on this. Don't kick paying customers out after 90 minutes."
Unbelievable.
And
Wow.
and
Signed, Mr. Pink.
we don't know what it was signed. And the reason we don't know what is signed is because the server was too classy for that.
Good.
The
good
server
for them.
shared this with the world as if to say, "Don't be this piece of shit."
Yeah.
Mhm.
But also, I'm not going to out this piece of shit and subject him to a public shaming, because that would have
That's
gotten out of
classy.
hand as well. But
Mhm.
but she did that, and then of course, inevitably, someone started a GoFundMe that she's sharing with her coworkers and probably some charities as well. I'm not really sure, but but I'm. This gives me another place. So once we're going out in the world more, I want to visit Glenbrook Brewery,
Yeah.
There you go.
even if I can only be there for 90 minutes.
Hey, I was gonna say I have roommates from my college days who lived in that area, so clearly
Oh.
we'll add that to the list of things to do once we're all out of quarantine.
Very
Uh,
good.
and another reminder that as we're going back into the world, and I know the group of your Avengers that did adventure this week were out there. Reminder to always tip your bartenders, and now's a good
Please.
time to tip them especially well. So
Yeah, that's why this thing
Absolutely.
is so fucking tone deaf.
mhm.
It's because it's like I've been making it a point to like I'm not even thinking percentages anymore. I'm just like I was like, oh, what do I have in my wallet? Here, there you go.
Mm-hmm.
You were doing the whatever
Go
the
ahead.
whatever
You can say it.
I was gonna say the Lord's work, but I'm not.
I mean, they
That's
kind of
not really
are
on
though.
brand for my personal belief system. But whatever the secular version of the Lord's work is,
The Lord would like you to drink, Captain. The Lord
And
wants you to
tip.
drink and tip.
well,
Most
I would
importantly,
yes, absolutely, or yeah, just whether it's the Lord, whoever's telling you, listen to the voices telling you, tip generously, and
Yes,
tip
please.
often, yeah, because yeah, boy, that they've got a tough job, and
yeah. And they've had a rough go of it for the last year, so it's time to
very much so,
remind them
yeah.
how
Both
appreciative
the
we
ones
are.
who haven't been working and the ones who have been working. It's a thankless industry.
Well, it's been great to have Night Runner on this week. Thanks for joining us.
And
Hey,
thank
Thank you
you
for having
for
me.
making us look so fantastic, both on
Thanks
people's
for your-
phones and now on our physical persons.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
anytime. It was so much fun.
and
Speaking of any time,
oh yeah, come back anytime.
there we go. There it is.
I also want to take 1 second to plug the wonderful things. You've seen the wonderful artwork that Night Runner is capable of, but he also has several places where you can see his short films. One of which my roommate is in.
Oh,
I see.
Yes, that's go back a few episodes, you'll find out what that means. But it's I know you have a YouTube page where it's you're looking under Hoff Kilter. I know some of your more recent ones are on Vimeo, but I was having a really hard time finding those today. So what's the best way to find your work if people want to look at it?
We're actually going to be updating our YouTube to have everything, so you should be able to find everything
Great.
that's current on our YouTube soon. But if you're on Vimeo, the quality is a little bit better. It should be able to be found if you just type in Hoff Kilter, and we have more of our, at least right now, our more current films. We're actually this weekend shooting something brand new. We're not sure exactly what it is yet, but it's going to be sci-fi, and it's going to be based off of the word loop.
oh, fun.
Yeah,
Because I know you were doing this already, but that's a big thing you spent quarantine doing is your short films. You've been very productive in that sense.
Yeah, we made several. And the first thing we did once because I worked in the service industry before all of this happened, so I had nothing to do for about a year. So I learned a lot more than I already knew about photography, and I translated that into film. And I spent the entire summer and fall just making films.
Wow.
Yeah. And we actually, there's a local film festival. I think they might have moved, but it's not just it's local to the borough that I live in, which is Queens, and it's called the Sequestered Film Festival. And a friend of ours named Annie Sage started this whole thing, and it's essentially every week we'd have to make a new film, and we'd have to start from scratch with a one-word prompt. And this week it's just the word loop. So
Loop.
yeah.
Interesting.
And is it an outgrowth of the Sparrow Film Festival, or are they something entirely separate?
Entirely separate.
Okay.
Just sort of like, I mean, it's funny because it comes from a lot of people who got involved with it initially were people who were veterans of Sparrow Film,
Right,
which is really cool.
Queens filmmakers, that would make sense.
Right. And the whole thing is it's supposed to be filmed on your phone. You have a week to film it, and
Oh, wow.
in the early part of it, of the Sequestered Film Project, Sequestered Film Festival, I should say, the rules were essentially you had to do the entire thing in your house of shelter or your in shelter place. You couldn't
Right.
like go out, and
Right.
you essentially had to kind of obey the law, which is good, which is a good thing.
Yes.
It's smart. Yeah, it's good that they're encouraging that.
Yeah, definitely. And they're still doing it. They just this is their 50th week. It's crazy. We didn't
Oh,
make
wow.
50 films. We didn't do every week because it's too hard. It's
Yeah.
very hard to do a film every single week.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah, and yeah, they're on their 50th week this week, and we're actually going to join it. It's going to be really cool.
That is very cool.
It is. All right. So if you want to see any of that, check out Hoff Kilter on YouTube. If you want to see the piece we collaborated on, that's called Absolution, the award-winning Absolution from the
Oh,
Spirit.
nice.
Look at that.
Mhm.
And if you want to check out us,
Yeah, where can we be found?
Yeah. How do you get more beer venture in your life?
We're at the Beer Vengers and Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. I might have said that in the reverse order of what people look at most, but all of those
It
things.
doesn't. People look at everything at this point.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hell yeah.
I mean, yeah, just put the Beer Vengers, the Beer Vengers. Make sure you put the Beer Vengers because
See, the article is important.
the article is
Yep.
important there because the other one was taken. But yeah, look at the Beer Vengers at the Beer Vengers or the Beer Vengers at gmail.com. And any other place where you can find us. Every time I Google us, I find something new and exciting. Yeah, the beervengers.com, of course. I just realized this week I got a special notice. We're up to 50 posts there. I'm
Whoa.
surprised it was only that so far, but between all of our various things, and you can look at all of them there if you want to and stream all
Incredible.
of the episodes and almost see many of our faces. I guess that
Don't forget to watch Who Wrote This Shit, an amazing game show hosted by Beer Wonder on Monday nights at
Yes.
9:00. You can find it on YouTube, Facebook, and anywhere
Yeah,
else.
and those are the places. And
YouTube,
Twitch.
Facebook.
It's on Twitch, right?
Yeah, it's on
and it's
Twitch.
on Twitch, but you're welcome. But we encourage you to play along in the comments or chat for your
Oh, yeah,
opportunity
it's a
to
lot
be
of
featured
fun.
on screen.
Oh, very good. Well, this has been another great show. And thank all of you for being here and all of you out there for listening to us. All the Beer Vengers.
Yeah, and thanks again to the Night Rider. Oh, Night Rider. Excuse me, Night Rider.
Night Runner.
Night Runner. Night
Oh,
Runner.
jeez. Oh,
Night
gosh.
Runner.
Edit that out.
Eh.
Yeah. All right.
It's a hook up for next week.
That's
Very
a
good.
hookup for sure. So, a pure hookup. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next week.
See you then.
With a beer, beer Avengers, beer Avengers, beer Avengers.
We're the Beer Vengers.